Hello, everyone, and welcome to this webinar on how to ride the AI traffic wave. My name is Camille Mender. I'll be your moderator today. I'm Chief Analyst at Omdia, and I'm joined today by two experts in the field of AI traffic, Jürgen Haythire, who is the CTO International at Sienna, and Johan Goodell, who is Optical Product Manager at Aurelion. Now, between the three of us, we're going to be very snackable and concise in our discussion of what's happening in the market. You're going to learn a bit more about how the traffic is evolving, what the traffic consists of, and what you can do about it, and who you should work with to navigate this AI traffic tsunami. So how to ride the AI traffic wave? Let's look at the market, what's happening in general around the world to drive AI traffic. But let's be clear, global network traffic is quadrupling. Now, this may not surprise you if you've been in the networking game for some years, because traffic continues to grow. It's been doing this for a number of years. The difference is not the volume, but the composition of traffic. This is from Omdia research, just under 500 exabytes in 2024 to just shy of 2000 exabytes by 2030. Now, that quadrupling is pretty much business as usual, but let's talk about that traffic mix. And Jürgen, let me perhaps turn to you first in terms of the audience, thinking about the audience that's participating, and not just service providers, but also enterprises. How urgent is this change in the traffic mix that AI is in the mix?
So I believe AI is one of those, generational, or let's say platform shifts that only comes every decade. And as you rightly said, we will see a lot of impact on traffic. It also impacts our businesses. And to your question, I want to start with the enterprises. We have seen in quite a few studies that enterprises are still in very embryonic phases of adopting AI. They might have a tool somewhere in operations, a chatbot, but that's really not adding any any traffic to the network. But companies that have been advanced in AI implementation might use a combination of large language model, large vision models, maybe some small language models, and combine them in an ecosystem to run agents. And then the network becomes a really important part to coordinate those. If you look at the service provider side, service providers have been exposed up till now primarily with data center interconnect traffic, large GPU clusters that exchanging data for training purpose or deploying models that have been trained out to the edge. And these service providers need to deal with very different types of traffic, as you said. There could be bulky traffic that is uploaded from an enterprise into a big cloud for training, or there might be some real-time traffic that's really important because decisions need to be made for a production line or maybe traffic management or in the healthcare side. So there are plenty of use cases that are just coming along. But what we can say is that, number one, really enterprises will deal with a very complex ecosystem of cloud and networking, and they need the right partner for that. And for service providers, it's really important to think beyond just, hey, can I provide connectivity from A to B, but become that partner that supports an AI-powered ecosystem.
So in fact, AI is forcing a more nuanced view of the network for service providers and for enterprises to think beyond, right? Because this is truly a global development, and it's not just within the campus network, but in the metropolitan, in the wide area, various aspects of the network globally, right? And Johan, of course, you know about that. That's part of your day-to-day business.
Yeah, so we have started to see a bit of a shift in traffic. We've seen before it was quite the traffic on capacity on waves and stuff like that were growing at pretty much the same rate as the IP network. So that kind of worked itself upwards. But lately we've seen that the traffic on the capacity side significantly outstrips the growth on the IP side, and that on the broad term shows the big growth in other type of traffic, and particularly in terms of AI traffic.
Well, that's great. Let's dig into that a little bit more about the type of traffic, right? Because it's the direction of traffic, the nature of traffic is evolving. And certainly what we've seen at Omdia is that in the next few years, we think that the traffic will be very much upstream heavy, that it will be the B2B apps, you know, what Jürgen was talking about, some of the manufacturing, some of the financial services, certainly types of apps driving growth, and the AI automation, you know, as it takes on certain lower value tasks, right? And we're seeing already a lot of upstream video and image analysis. But then over, you know, by 2028, we think, and, you know, I would do wonder sometimes if our forecasts are conservative, but certainly 2028 onwards, we think it's going to flip, right? It's going to be downstream heavy. That's a massive change for our industry, right? You know, the consumer apps are going to drive the growth, the entertainment and interactions becomes, you know, very much immersive. We've been talking about immersive for how many years now? You know, XR, holographic, all the rest of it. And I'm sure, Johan, that you're hearing a lot of this, you know, concerns about the change in traffic from your customers, right? In terms of traffic flows, they're starting to see this, right?
Yes, we just started to see the beginning of it. I think the how this will evolve is different. We do see, of course, we see that there is a lot of traffic now going between cloud and AI production facilities, and then back again into the cloud. We do see that learning models starting to take shape. But I also think the distribution, if you think about the difference between Netflix and YouTube, where Netflix you can distribute using CDN, you can distribute the traffic quite easily on the network. While YouTube is generated by everybody, viewed by everybody, so require much more network. And the more you get this production and consumption everywhere, the more strain it will have on the network.
And it's interesting that you mentioned, you know, YouTube, you know, and Netflix, because of course, these are applications that we know already very well. And in fact, that's what we see in the network, the traffic evolution, that it's not necessarily new applications, but actually AI being you know, imbued, embedded into existing applications, you know, upgrading. That's a lot of what's going to be happening. And so that's what we need to get used to, is, you know, anticipating some existing applications changing fundamentally in the performance needs, right? With the evolution of video, some people would say this is a bit of a you know, apocalyptic view perhaps of how video might evolve, but I think there's some truth to this, right? But certainly, you know, pre-24 it was really just people watching videos. Realistically today, and I think Jürgen, you would agree with me here, it is the machines are starting to watch a lot of video, right? And onwards, and this is the scary thing for, I think, Hollywood and Bollywood and others, is, well, the machines are going to be creating the video. And that's a fundamental change. We think of the impact on the network. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of discussion about this generative AI, but maybe not as much about generative XR. What are your thoughts around that, Jürgen?
So, Camille, I actually want to go back one slide and say I really do agree that you are conservative on your traffic growth estimations.
Sure, okay.
In the last 12 months, things have happened in the AI space that I thought would take 2 to 3 years. And, you know, coming to, you know, your machines creating digital video, 2027, I think this is more like 2024, 25. We have just seen a recent AI film festival where people globally competed with AI-created movies, AI-generated scripts plus movies. And the output was amazing, absolutely unbelievable. So if I, you know, just put that towards myself and say, hey, if I come home and, you know, the AI does my sentiment analysis, how I feel after work, and generates a video for me, then that traffic might, you know, be very different. To Johan's point, the CDN might be completely bypassed. The video might be generated on the edge in a core data center. So all of that is going to, you know, dramatically challenge the way we plan for traffic and the way we deliver capacity to an AI-powered ecosystem.
And
So
let me ask you a sneaky little question there. Do you think that that very personalized video then will carry a lot more value as well?
oh,
We're going to pay more for that personalized video?
Oh, I would think so, and I personally would pay more for it, 100%.
Okay.
And by the way, we we got to charge more for that type of service because the amount of compute you will require, of course, it will go down with innovation. But then the networking, there is an ecosystem that needs to be also, profitable. Otherwise, the best application in the world will not be there for the long term. So
Well, it
I think it
sounds,
will be a new
sorry.
revenue opportunity for many people in that ecosystem.
Well, I was going to say, it sounds like good news for Aurelian. So, Johan, good. I hope you got share options. The big discussion is where, of course, these workloads are going to be processed, and what does that mean in terms of transiting across networks? And the answer is we don't exactly know. But here is a view of how it might work. This is service providers being asked where they think the workload is going to be processed. And yes, I do believe a lot of it's going to be end user devices. We're going to beef up devices, but it's also going to be a number of other places. Yes, it's going to be on campuses, office locations. We shouldn't be surprised at that. But think about all of those cell sites, the hub sites, not least, perhaps most important, are those public cloud data centers, and in the service provider environment, the central office, the head end sites, all of that. Truth, it's going to be a bit of everywhere, and you need to have a fine network and capillarity of that network and global network connectivity to be able to handle all this, right? So, Johan, good news for you, yes?
It is certainly good news. It's both good news and a bit of a challenge because we see it's not just about data centers and how it is and how it has used to be, because the AI centers, they require significant amount of power, and that is kind of shifting actually also where you can put them. And you will see that data centers would pop up not necessarily where there is connectivity today. And you will see a different shift in how we need to work with both partners and others in order to serve these data centers that is there where the power is.
So you're already seeing fundamental changes in capacity buying behavior, and you would recommend to others that they start thinking about these issues, correct, Johan?
Absolutely. So if you look at the macro picture here, what's happening, we live in a hyperscaler dominated world, right? There is a lot of innovation driven, a lot of growth, and that's fantastic because that global scale amplifies wealth and growth like, no individual country could. But there are different camps. So if you look at the end user devices running AI, you're talking Apple, right? They believe that, things need to run on the end user device. Whereas an Amazon or Microsoft want to focus on the cloud. And that by itself, creates a big challenge for network operators and us alike, because we need to model, how do we get the traffic or the data from A to B? How do you flex it when you require it? What do you do with 70,000, Apple devices or AI powered devices in a stadium? How do you connect, big enterprises who want to get new training loads uploaded to data center? All of that is currently challenging our industry. The good and the bad news is it has only started. We have gotten a break, and only 20% of enterprises have really had meaningful AI projects that have generated returns. And that needs to be an absolute call for action for all of us to be ready, to get ready. And, as we are working together with Aurelian to map out network capacity, build models and scenarios, that's the way we can open up an infrastructure that really amplifies and boosts that wave of AI, that tsunami of AI, as you mentioned it earlier.
Now, to that point, we've been laying out the challenges, the emerging questions. I think we need to give some recommendations to those that are listening to this, watching this today. So let me hand over to Johan for some thoughts about how you should prepare.
Yes, of course, the first point is really, as always, is to be customer focused. When we really need to keep in mind the customer, where do the customer want to go? We know that there is big changes coming, and we don't really know how they evolve. We don't know where AI is in 2 years, what different types of places need to go. So, and just try to understand it, but also stay flexible. So it's the uncertainty in there. So stay flexible to be able to change your strategy when that is required. And we will also see that it's important to have the local knowledge, to have also the local dialogue, because there's going to be sovereign. We have already sovereign cloud, sovereign AI. There will be AI strategies in each country, how to generate it. And then you have the other side as well. AI will consume a lot of power. Consumers' power price goes up. That can have a political backlash. So we need to take all those things into account.
Great. Well, thank you very much for that.